Good afternoon. Welcome to this week's edition of Office Hours. My name is Austin Bergen and I am the product manager for PAI Reports. Today we're going to be going over a few of our advanced filtering options. To start this off, we're going to be talking about date ranges. And for that, I'm going to be looking at our revenue reports. Date range is any two dates separated by a hyphen. You can see in this date range, we have the 1st of October through October 31st. That's a date range. You could manually type that in. We could go in here and type in October 1st, 2025 through October 31st, 2025. Or we could use our calendar. We could select the 1st of October through the 31st of October. That is a date range. What if you wanted to have a open-ended date? And you didn't want to look for just the 1st of October through the 31st. You wanted to look for anything that occurred for October 1st. For that, you'd be using our open-ended date ranges. And here's an example of how those work. You can see on our open-ended date ranges, we have the less than and greater than sign. The less than sign means before this date. We also have less than or equal to, which means before or equal to this date. The greater than sign means after this date. Greater than or equal to means after or equal to this date. And I think a really good place to do that is actually on our terminal status report. Let's say I'm looking for every terminal that has not processed transaction since the 1st of October. I would type in after this date, or before this date, sorry, October 1st, 2025. And if I search that, now we're just looking at the terminals that the last transaction was before October 1st, 2025. I could switch up our logic here and do after 2025. And now I'm just going to see the terminals that the last transaction is after October 1st. Now I can also add that equal sign in here if I wanted to include the first. So now I'm looking at transactions or terminals that the last transaction was October 1st and beyond. Or I could switch that to before or equal to October 1st by switching this sign around. So that is a way that you can do open-ended date ranges. And again, here is what they mean. Less than means before this date. Greater than means after this date. So what other options do we have? What I'm calling dynamic dates. A dynamic date is a modifier followed by a component. We have two modifiers. We have B, which means beginning of, and then E, which means end of. And the components that follow the modifier is day, week, month, quarter, and year. D for day, W for week, so on and so forth. Well, how would you use that in our website? Well, that would work. So if I just go in here and I just type in beginning of month and I search that, it's going to pull up the 1st of the month. Same thing if I do end of month. That's going to pull up October 31st, the end of the month. Same thing with the year. So if I type in beginning of year, it's going to pull up the 1st of January. End of year is going to pull up December 31st. We could turn these dynamic dates into a date range. And this is how they would look. You can see in the examples I have here, we have beginning of month through end of month. And then we'll have beginning of year through end of year. And those work as well. So if I go back to our date range here and I do beginning of month through end of month, and I search that, it's going to pull up October 1st through October 31st. And the same thing would happen if I do beginning of year through end of year. Now it's going to pull up the entire current year. Well, if you saw in our examples here, we have a third option here. The third option is -1 beginning of year through -1 end of year. If I go back to our date range here and I type in -1 beginning of year through -1 end of year, that's going to pull up the whole year for 2024. We're going back 1 year. If I do -2 beginning of year through -2 end of year. That's going to pull up 2023. That is our dynamic dates. Now, one thing I do want to point out is none of that was built with the intention that you would go to this date range and you would type in beginning of month through end of month. You certainly could. It's less characters than typing out the entire date that you're looking for. I think it's a little bit faster if you're doing just that to go to the calendar icon and select the date range that you're looking for. Where these dynamic dates, where they shine, is when you are customizing a report. So let's say every time I go to this revenue report, I want to see last month's information. I can customize this report, and in the date range here, you can see we already have in beginning of month through end of month. That's going to pull up the current month that we're in. Well, if I want to see last month's information, I'm just going to add a -1 in front of both of these. And then I can save this. And then now every time I pull up this report, it's going to have last month's information pre-typed in. And that's why they're called dynamic dates. You're not typing in a solid date here. You're not typing in September 1st through September 30th. You're just saying, I want to see last month's information. So -1 beginning of month and -1 end of month. So now next month in November, when I pull up this report, it's going to pull up October's information automatically. So that is our dynamic dates. Last thing I want to show is our text filtering. So we have a couple different ways that you can filter text in our system, right? And the first one on the list here is a comma. I'm sure everyone is used to using a comma in our website. It basically just means and. Comma means and. And so if you're looking for multiple terminal numbers and you have them separated by a comma, what you're basically saying is terminal number 1 and terminal number 2. The comma just means and. The second one on our list here is a quotation mark, and that just means an exact search. It's an exact search. And here's an example of where that would be used. So let's say I'm looking for a location name, and the location name is North. If I type in the word North here, you'll see it pulls up 2 locations. I have North, and then I also have this other one that's North Bar. Well, when you type something into our system that is not in quotation marks, our system is looking for every location that has the word North in it. In this case, I only have 2 results, but let's say I had 4 pages. I don't want to have to click through 4 pages to find this location name that is exactly North. I could put this in quotes, and then now our system is looking for the location name exactly North. And so if you're looking for something that is exactly this, put it in quotes. It's a super easy, quick way to find exactly the location you're looking for. Next up is a exclamation point. And that exclamation point just means not. Again, I'm going to go to our ATM list here. Let's say I am looking for locations that are not in the city of Billings, right? We can see out of my 13 ATMs here, we have a lot of different cities. We have San Jose, Warden, Orem, Billings, Ballantyne. A lot of them are Billings. Well, what I could do is I could export this, and then I could filter my Excel spreadsheet to remove the city of Billings, or I could just do that in PAI Reports by using our text filtering. So for the city, I can go in here and I can do exclamation point, which means not Billings. I can type in the word Billings, run that, and so now I'm looking for every location that is not in Billings. That one is really useful, that exclamation point, that not. Another place that you could use it, and I would recommend, I've recommended it to a lot of different people, is in the group column here. Let's say I want to see every location that is not in our demo group. I would do exclamation point, demo. So now it's going to pull up every location that is not in the demo group. And you could customize your report, and we could call this not demo. And in the column for group, I can type in not demo. And now when I run this report, it's always going to have this not demo. So that is our not. Now the last one here is an asterisk. I didn't really know what to call it, so I just called it a filler. It's something that I use almost daily. It's just a way to fill in the gap. So if I go to our ATM list, and let's say that somebody I'm talking to, it could be a coworker, it could be one of my merchants, it could be anything, and I ask them to read me a terminal number. And I hear them, they say TX5, their mic cuts out, or maybe I got distracted for a second, and I didn't hear the rest of it, but I heard that it ended in a 5. Well, instead of asking them to reread me that terminal number, I know he said TX5, and then it ended in a 5. Well, how would I search that? That's what the asterisk is for. So we're going to type in TX5, asterisk, we're filling this information in, and then it ends in a 5. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull up every terminal that starts with TX5, has something else in it, but it ends in a 5. And in this case, we have one result. That's when you would use our the asterisk. Now that asterisk is, you can use it on people's names. If you're looking up a user, if you're looking up email addresses, cities, if you misspelled, if somebody who typed in a terminal, who built that terminal, maybe misspelled a city name, and you're looking for that, but you know they got the first half of it right, you could find it through that method. So that is our advanced filtering. Yeah, have a good weekend. Appreciate you guys.